Just when you thought the injury pain couldn't get any worse, Nico Collins strains his hamstring. I don't know. That probably wasn't that relevant at Open for everybody, but it was relevant to you and me. So on today's episode of the Regression to the Mean podcast, we're going to help you make sense of more injuries and more bye weeks because we have 15 players on the Week 6 waiver wire that will make your fantasy team better. I'm your host, Shaun, and I'm joined by my co-host, good friend, and fellow knower of ball, Aidan Haller. Aidan, this was the first time all season where I woke up. And I don't know if I was full-blown running away from the grind, but it was hitting me a little bit. I was a little burnt out. I was like, I don't know if I can handle any more of these injuries, these buys. You know, my teams have started at 3-0. They're now 3-2. It's just a grind of a season, man. And you have to remind yourself every time. So I don't know, man. How are you pushing through the fantasy season? At least you had Caleb kind of give you a hell of a Sunday yesterday.
Yeah, that was the first Monday. I woke up where I was like, wow, like what a non-sweat like victory. Like I was thinking back, like what was the last time they like won by 20 plus like that? And I was like, maybe the Mitch Trubisky game like 5 years ago against Tampa when he had 6 tutties. I was like, it's just been such a dark couple last years for Caleb just to cruise and absolutely, just dominate for 4 quarters. I enjoyed that. Yeah, I had a good fantasy day too. So no, by Monday I woke up and I was like, wow, I'm built for this thing. So yeah, how you doing, Shaun? You're in a hotel here. You are.
I am.
You were on the move today. You were not.
I am on the move. Station. I am on the move. Contrary to popular belief, mean team, I've got a full-time job and sometimes duty calls. But regardless of any work I have to, any travel I have to do for work, we're still going to hop on. We're still going to record. We're still going to talk through the Week 6 waiver wire. I'm just going to pretend like the Niners didn't lose yesterday. That's my chief objective. Didn't happen. Whenever they lose, it disrupts my whole morning routine on Mondays because usually I like to listen to my football podcast. But anytime it gets brought up that they lost another 10-point fourth quarter lead, I just want to commit a small war crime. So I try to avoid those podcasts in the morning. So I got caught up on some current events. Pretty bleak. There's nothing to escape this Nico Collins life, but I digress. So if you are new to our channel, our waiver wire episodes are pretty straightforward. We go through some of the biggest injury news and injury headlines from Week 6 before we hop into our 15 priority ads on the waiver wire. Aidan, I'm sure this is the first time, maybe the second time someone's seen our videos, clicked on the video, decided to watch a little bit. If it's the first time discovering the Regression to the Mean channel, what should the lovely people do at home, Aidan?
Yeah, kick your feet up. Enjoy the show. We've got, I think, 15, 16 guys for you today, spanning across all 4 positions. So no defenses, no kickers for you sickos out there. But enjoy the show. Got some good recommendations for you. If you really like the show, like, comment, subscribe. All 3 if you're really feeling frisky. But yeah, enjoy the show. And just let us know what you think.
Yep. Pretty simple. If any of this is speaking your language and you don't care that we talk about our fantasy teams and our normal NFL teams, then it's probably the channel for you. Okay, we're going to start things off here on the injury front, and there were some big names that went down, some pretty big names, so I think it's important that we talk through it. The first one I'm going to hit on here is somebody that actually ended up coming back into the game after getting a pretty nasty-looking concussion, and that's none other than Josh Allen. He came back and played, had a really weird game. 9 for 30. That's like an old school Josh Allen 2019 game we used to see from him.
2 back-to-back stinkers now. And no one really he gets a pass for it, but no, he's been awful 2 weeks in a row now. The concussion is just nightmare fuel to what's been a pretty bad season for him.
So I don't know if he enters concussion protocol or not. Now, this would happen last year where a quarterback would get hurt, come back in, and then enter the concussion protocol for the following week. I'm not really certain how this will play out, but he definitely looked concussed.
1,000%. Like the arms went limp. He hit the curve hard, dude. I was like, concussion, like 100%.
Someone even said that they gave him smelling salts, and that's why he ran back in. Again, this is just what the internet's saying. I have no idea. Oh, there is? Okay.
There's videos of that.
We'll see if he plays, but that's something to monitor for that entire offense if Josh Allen doesn't play. But hey, we could fire up Mitch Trubisky one last time.
Thank God, welcome back.
Another injury here that probably doesn't affect us too much because the Minnesota Vikings are going to be on a bye. But that's none other than Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, was just having an absolutely banner start to his inaugural season here with the Vikings. Leaves the game with a hip injury that some people were labeling hamstring. Some people were labeling groin, but it looks pretty clear that it was a hip. He's undergoing an MRI. That's never good when a 29-year-old running back is undergoing an MRI. So I don't know where this lands Aaron Jones, but he has a checkered injury history. And we're going to talk about ways that we're going to approach Aaron Jones and his potential replacement on the waiver wire. But this kind of feels like a kind of file this away because they don't play next week. Do you have any read on Jones? Do you think he's going to miss significant time here?
Yeah, I think it's too soon to tell. The bye couldn't come at a better time, though. To your point, we'll get into possible replacements for Aaron Jones, but it's probably a little too soon to tell. I think we know it's not like an extended period of time. I'd be shocked if he misses maybe more than a week or two. But we also kind of expected this from Aaron Jones. He's on the older side in terms of the running backs in the NFL today, so kind of wait and see. If you have him, he was going to be on bye anyways, so I wouldn't totally panic yet until we kind of see what's going on later this week.
Yep, that's something to monitor. Another one to monitor here is DeVon Achane, our fallen star here. Look at the start to the year for Achane versus the last 3 weeks. He leaves this game with a concussion. My read here is that he's probably going to miss this upcoming week. Oh, wait, no, they're on a bye.
Yeah, he's
right?
on bye. This is another one
wow.
where it's like we kind of lucked out. Because to your point, I don't think he wasn't concussed last year at all. He's probably back for Indy. 2 full weeks to clear protocol. A guy that doesn't have huge history. Yeah, it was a bummer though. He got concussed on it was like a 15-yard rush. I think it was got around the corner and you're like, hell yeah, Achane's back. And then he's just on all fours and you're like, damn it, dude. I can't have anything with this guy. So I'd assume he's back against Indy though.
The bye week comes at a good time. I thought they had another game and then it was a bye, but this whole entire offense needs some milk. They're so banged up, desperately needed to get this win to keep their season alive. I know it stinks that he left this game early, but he's been banged up with lower body injuries to start the year. He gets a week off. Mostert came back. Mostert looked good. This run game got some traction going. So maybe this is just me coping that the other running backs looked good, but I think he was going to have a good day before he got hurt. And I think overall he should come back healthy in week 7, which I'm excited to see.
Yep.
All right. Another injury worth noting here is Zach Moss. Now, this one looked nasty.
I thought he was going to get carted off.
Yeah, it looked nasty. Really he came back in the game. So
one play later, not even it was immediately was back in the game after I thought he got shot.
Now, again, there are plenty of guys that get hurt, come back in, say they're fine, and then miss next week. So it's something to monitor with Moss.
Joe Mixon.
But it does look like Moss avoided a serious injury. So definitely worth calling out.
Expect he misses some time here. Hopefully you got Chase Brown on your roster if you're holding those.
This one's the hardest one of the weekend. Anytime the man has a 70-yard touchdown and immediately gets hurt, it's always a bummer. And then when it's the best receiver in football through the first 5 weeks of the year, it makes it even worse. He has 567 yards through 5 games. Oh, man.
Take my hammy. I don't need it, Nico.
AJ Brown injures his hamstring. He's out 3 weeks. Evan Ingram injures his hamstring. He's out 3 weeks. This is probably a 3-week injury if you have Nico Collins.
Because it was an aggravation, too, of the one that he kind of injured in practice, I think a week and a half ago. Managed to play through it somehow, but yeah, you kind of figure we're looking at least 2 games here.
I mean, week 8 or week 9. That would. I'm telling people expect 4 weeks and be happy when you get 3. That's how I'm approaching it. Unfortunately,
but Nico's also a freak, so if he's back in 2, I wouldn't be surprised.
And he spent a lot of time in the blue tent. I think he knows how to rehab at this point. I'm not knocking you. You're still our king, Nico, but you do get banged up. This one's a bummer. He has his breakout game in week 4, and then predictably this passing offense kind of falls flat on its face against a very good Bears defense and secondary. So I wasn't that surprised that they had a rough game, but he did bang up his shoulder in this one. They are saying it's day-to-day, and they are expecting him to suit up against the Falcons. So
really?
Maybe he doesn't miss any time. Yeah, That's what we're seeing here from David Newton of ESPN.com. He's reporting that Legette should play in week 6, but we'll see. There's been a lot of early indications from players and reporters that guys are fine, and then they don't end up playing. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah,
if he
fingers
does
crossed.
not play, I mean, Deontay Johnson's going to see like 15 targets if he doesn't play.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
This one's a bummer because David Njoku was back, the Chief, and then immediately got hurt again. So he's undergoing an MRI on his knee after his high ankle sprain. Not that uncommon to see players get high ankle sprains and then start hurting other parts of their legs because they're just overcompensating.
Yeah, this one could be bad, but we'll see. Yeah, it's definitely a tough round for him given where he was drafted this year, kind of that like fringe top 10 tight end range.
This one was crazy because I thought Aaron Rodgers kind of died on the field. Like that.
I thought he died
that
multiple times.
Scream of agony he let out was crazy. I was like, wow, a 49-year-old man just got bent over like a suitcase here. They say Aaron, he's going to be good to go. Should be fine.
He'll be fine. They'll toss him another perk like he does, like every time he gets hurt.
Perk Rodgers.
And he'll be out there, dude.
Perk 40 Rodgers. My knee.
He's fine.
Other ones too worth calling out. The Rams are going on a bye, but it sounds like Cooper Kupp, he should be back in week 7. That was always kind of the best case scenario, and it looks like we're going to get that, which is pretty exciting.
Yep. Should we call out the rest of the buys too, just so we know kind of what we're dealing with here for the listeners?
Yeah. Who's on bye this week?
Yeah, so we've got some pretty big teams here. Sorry, let me click this. I was on 5 still. But we've got the Chiefs. Man, we've got some pretty heavy hitters here. We've got the Chiefs. We've got the Rams, which is honestly good for Cooper Kupp. It's another week that you're not without him. He's getting better. You've got the Dolphins, which is probably also better. It's a week that we could get Tua back. And then we've got the Vikings too. So you've got no Jettas. You've got no running backs. If you're starting Darnold, good for you, even JA. So those are 4, what we're supposed to be playoff teams this year, all on bye this week. So, you're going to need some of these waivers we're talking about to potentially fill some bye week and injury holes.
I mean, the Rams and the Dolphins needed this early bye. They lucked out.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if they're like the Texans who have a week 14 bye. Like, they lucked out with this early bye.
Yeah, I freaked out. And then the Chiefs and the Vikings, they're both going to go into it undefeated. So, do they need it? No, but now they get even healthier. And,
whoa, you're calling a Chiefs win no matter what tonight against New Orleans?
I think so.
Okay, that's fair. Underdog at home though. Is it in Arrowhead?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I think they win, but we'll see. Yeah,
Taylor's in the stadium, I guess. So
she's live, is she?
She's live on low. On low.
Yeah, they're -5.
Responsibly? regression to the teaser. Okay.
All right.
Those are heavy hitters. I'm actually pretty happy to see the Chiefs get on a bye, especially if you drafted Mahomes. They desperately need a get right week. I'm seeing first team reps for Justin Ross tonight. So,
even if you still have any hope about Rashee Rice too, this could be another week for him to get better. If it's only like a 4-week ordeal, we could be only 2-3 weeks away after the bye. So
I think his season's probably over. I've done, how much research I've done on this. His season's probably over. Best case scenario, he probably has the Puka knee injury, which was 8 weeks. So I don't know though.
Bummer.
But we'll probably get more information during the game tonight or maybe tomorrow because the Chiefs play today. So, and we're recording this Monday afternoon. So just as kind of a heads up to the listeners. All right, man, those are the injuries. Not a super heavy injury week. We'll have to stay tuned on what happens with Joe Mixon, who just has a never-ending ankle injury that you don't know what to do with. Have to keep an eye on Jonathan Taylor, who has the lowest high ankle sprain of all time, supposedly. And we'll have to, continue to monitor what happens with Anthony Richardson, if he is going to play or not. These are all kind of big questions here in fantasy football land. But man, I'm excited to dive into this waiver wire. This isn't as sexy as the Dontavian Wicks blow all your fab and get 4 points sweepstakes that we had last week, because you and I both did that. But we have some big names here, and I think some names that really can help people win. And I think we got to start things off here with somebody who unironically had one of the worst seasons I've ever seen a rookie running back have. Like, truly, just he had they do EPA, And every single time the Jaguars gave Tank Bigsby the ball last year, they lost a point of EPA. Because EPA's expected points added. He had a negative per EPA touch. It's like kind of impossible to
night
do.
and day different. And it's funny because I saw a tweet, I forget who it was, but it was like, ironically, like I was fully out on him. Or no, I was in on him as a rookie, fully out on year 2. And like it could not have been like the wrong like way to do it. But yeah, just looking to take Bigsby, dude. Like you look at what he did this week, and 13 rushes for 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had that long rush at the end of the game to kind of put a stamp on that one. RB1 on the week, dude had 27 points. Yeah, a 25 here in this format. I think what's most notable though is that for the first time in his career, he outsnapped Travis Etienne, which it wasn't by a wide margin, 40% to 38%. So, they're still pretty close here, but the fact that we're here in week 5 and Tank Bigsby is already potentially surpassing him as the RB1 is 100% worth kind of looking at. I just want to like point out a couple stats here throughout the year. Like he's just been better than ETN. There's really no nice way to put it. Dude's rushed 34 times for 273 yards, good for about 8 yards a carry. ETN's rushed 53 times for about 230 yards. So 4.3 is not bad. 4.3 yards a carry. We'll take that. But, significantly more explosive here. 17% explosive run rate versus 4. Same amount of touches inside the 5, which is huge. He's getting those money touches. His expected fantasy points per game, he's outperforming while ETN continues to outperform. It's just, he looks good. Like he's passing the eye test. Every stat tells you he's having a better season so far than ETN. Doug Peterson said they're not going to go away from ETN, which like they're never going to go fully away from him. But I don't know. It does feel like the scale's starting to slide a little bit. What's your gauge on Tank and how you'd approach that backfield?
Well, one, he looks explosive as all hell. That's a big man go fast. Big man go fast. So he catches your eye. He looks great in the number 4 too. In those throwback jerseys, he looked sweet. It's just the aesthetic of the football player. Yeah. Look, coaches are always going to lean on the incumbent. Travis has been a really good NFL player, but this is the running back, man. If you're not doing that well, it's the position that loses the touches the fastest. Like just always is. Yep. And if a guy's just better, you will start to lose touches. Now, again, they keep talking about Travis Etienne's shoulder injury, and it's now held him back in back-to-back games. Could just be a thing, man, like the shoulder injury. So I wouldn't get scared off too much by Doug Peterson's comments, and I would still be pretty aggressive with Bigsby if you can go get him. He was really good in college at Auburn, and this is the exact type of profile you want kind of in a workhorse back. So, yeah, I mean, I think Bigsby is a great candidate to lead off this waiver wire. What do you think, 20, 30% of fab?
Year 2. Yeah, I've got him
in
the
he is year 2, baby.
range. I think especially if you're down bad at running back, like, this is a guy that's clearly got juice. It feels like the offense is kind of waking up. The last game and a half, it's gotten better with that offense, which is encouraging. So, yeah, I'd be willing to go as, upwards of 30 if you really need it, probably 20 to 25. So I think this is our most expensive bid of
I'd say so
of the show, which makes sense. Like he's earned it. He's looked phenomenal.
Seeing Tank Bigsby do this is also, I'm not giving up on the Kendre Miller dream yet. That's all I'm saying.
No,
I'm not giving up on the Kendre Miller dream after this. The next guy that we've got here is a guy that we talked about a decent amount all summer in best ball, and wasn't really expecting him to be the leading rusher in week 5 of the NFL season, and that is none other than Tyrone Tracy, the rookie running back out of Purdue. If you want to call him a running back, the guy was basically a wide receiver at Iowa and then transferred to Purdue, became a running back as a 5th-year senior. And, man, he looked good, dude. He looked explosive. He was filling in for the injured Devin Singletary. He had 63% of the snaps, and he dominated the backfield with Devin Singletary out. It was a little frustrating. There was a lot more Eric Gray than I would have liked to see, especially at the beginning of the game. Now, Gray had a couple of really impressive catches, but Gray did fumble at the goal line, which then kind of pushed Dable to kind of position Eric Gray position Tyrone Tracy back into the lead role. And I thought he was going to have the lead role in this game because of the backup position he had with Devin Singletary when Devin Singletary was healthy. But, man, I'm a big fan of Motor Singletary, But the cat's out of the bag a little bit here with Tyrone Tracy. This was a stat, Aidan, that I thought was crazy. He's the first player in the NFL this season to have every single one of his rushes go for positive yards.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Positive gain on every single carry. And
that's going to get you more touches, just plain and simple.
And Seattle's missing Byron Murphy, so their rush defense isn't as potent as it probably could be. But I did a ton of research because I had a spot start for Tyrone Tracy against Keegan. Actually, I streamed him. This is not like the Indianapolis Colts rush defense, right? This is a fine middle of the road defense that he kind of carved up, man. He had some huge runs. He kind of put this game on ice. He was honestly one of the major reasons they won this game. So I think that depending on how long Singletary's out, because he has an injured groin, and groins can, re-pop up, you can get injured. They didn't really pay Singletary that much money. Like, they gave him a decent-sized contract as far as running backs go. But I would not be shocked if Tyrone Tracy is making this more of an even split the further we get along into the season. And if, Devin Singletary were to continue missing time, this guy is probably a top 18 weekly play, maybe 16 if bye weeks persist. So I'm pretty high on Tracy, dude. Do you have any thoughts on Tracy before we get to the next guy?
Yeah, I think it's kind of that last part. I think the more time that Singletary misses, the bigger the gap and the bigger the role he's going to carve out. As it looked good. It looked good. Everything tells you that was a really impressive performance from him. So say Singletary's got to miss 2-3 more weeks. I think there's a world where Tyrone Tracy's taking 60% of that backfield going forward. It looked really good.
What are you thinking? 15, 20, 25? How much you blowing on Tyrone Tracy?
I'm going a little less than Tank, but probably not by much. Because I think I don't know. There's a chance that Tracy's the actual starter here. It's a lot smaller sample in terms of what we've seen so far, but yeah, my bids are pretty similar there. I've got a 15 to 25%. So not a bad consolation prize if you can't get Tank.
I think rightfully so. We got very hyped up about Wicks and Downs last week. And Wicks' usage was good. Downs was awesome with Flacco. We kind of predicted that.
Yeah.
I would not be shocked, though, if the bids aren't that competitive for guys like Tracy and Bigsby. And if you had 30, 40 left in the pot, I wouldn't fault you for throwing it all on either one of these guys. Running back is scarce right now. It's scarce right now. And when young guys start to prove that they are good, you want those guys on your team, man. So I think both you could get aggressive with them. I would not fault you. The next two guys that we have are both running backs that are backing up starters that got hurt in week 5 that are then going on a bye. We've got Jaylen right here and Ty Chandler. Both, I think, are interesting stashes. You had Jaylen Wright over Ty Chandler on the priority list. Do you want to break that down on your reasoning there, Aidan?
Yeah, I think we just saw more this week out of Jaylen Wright. You look at what he did after Achane got hurt. 13 carries for 86 yards. Really impressive outing. I think, like you mentioned, if Achane didn't get hurt, it felt like he was actually on his way to a pretty good outing. The New England rush defense really isn't all that stout, and we saw that. So I just like what he possesses more as a runner. I think there's a lot more juice there compared to Ty Chandler. So I also just think there's more potential touches with McDaniels there in terms of getting explosive players into space. Whereas I think O'Connell, once Aaron Jones is back, he's going to return to that kind of bell cow status. So, don't love either one. We've got them both in the 3 to 5 range. How do you look at these two, and how are you approaching them, especially, like you said, with the incumbents both going into a bye? So there's a chance both guys are healthy by the time we get to week 7.
Yeah, my only thing with Wright is I think Mostert clearly has his role. Achane, when healthy, McDaniel has shown a willingness to really ride him. We'll see coming out of the bye if he gets the post-bye rookie bump with Jaylen Wright, but I feel like he's firmly still the RB3 there. Yeah. However, Aaron Jones is getting an MRI on his hip. Hip injuries really sap you of your athleticism. It's not good. Those aren't good injuries to have, especially when you're a 29-year-old running back. And with his injury history, I just feel like you might have a long-term starter in Ty Chandler if Aaron Jones actually misses time. And maybe I still have week 2 brain when Ty Chandler rushed for like 8 yards of pop against the Niners, but Chandler's good, dude. It was tough sledding against the Jets
Yeah,
in London this week, but I
he's solid.
I think Chandler. I think I'd prioritize Chandler over Wright if you need a running back right now. I do think Wright's a pretty sweet bench stash. Like if running back's a position of strength and you don't really need production, more of like end of season upside.
There's kind of no one behind Ty Chandler. Also, the only other people that touched
Gaskins,
that like saw the field, was Gaskin and CJ Ham. So it's like there's, if Aaron Jones actually misses time, they're probably bringing someone off the street. Because let's be honest, Ty Chandler, and Myles Gaskin is not that. That's not an NFL backfield.
Yeah, Ty Chandler, 61% of the snaps, 48% of the rushes, 49% of the routes, 11% targets per out run. That's a pretty elite role, dude.
No, I agree.
Whereas Myles Gaskin only saw 6% of the snaps in relief. There did CJ Ham score a touchdown? That happened, right? Wasn't there a Ham touchdown?
I don't remember. Oh, yes. Yeah, I woke up at half and saw it was like a pick 6 and a CJ Ham touchdown. I was like, cool, I didn't miss anything.
And then when you look at the Dolphins backfield, Jalen Wright handled 34% of the rushes to, 34% of the rushes to Raheem Mostert's 50. So, yeah.
He's got just like more traffic ahead of him on the depth chart for sure.
And get well, Achane.
Get well, DeVon.
Good things are coming if you stay healthy. All right, this one is a really deep sleeper here. I was texting Aidan. I was like, man, we should have been all over Tracy. I think I called out Tracy to Keegan on the wide receiver rankings episode because Singletary had missed back-to-back practices. But sometimes in fantasy, your best position when you're thinking about one injury away, guys. And someone I wanted to call out here is Isaac Guerendo. So Guerendo, you look at his stats, they're not necessarily popping off the screen, 5 for 22. But I will say that this was the most extended run Isaac Guerendo's got in a game this season for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, Jordan Mason remains the bell cow here, 80% of the rushes pretty much in every game. But we saw his rush percentage drop in week 5 to 64%. And we saw Isaac Guerendo handle 23% of the carries. I like Jordan Mason. He's having a wonderful season, but the Niners are having red zone issues. They can't score in the red zone, and they don't necessarily really want to throw the ball to him. And he had a pretty costly fumble that basically lost him the game. I'm not out here saying that he's going to get his job or his role reduced, but I'm saying there's a non-zero chance that it does. And Isaac Guerendo's a rookie. Shanahan has always been a little reticent to throw rookies into the fold, unless you're Elijah Mitchell for some reason. And I do think, though, and they've been comping him a lot. The running back coach, Bobby Turner, keeps calling him Raheem Mostert. They put number 31 on him. That was Mostert's old number. I just wouldn't be shocked, dude, if they start giving Guerendo some run and he starts hitting some explosives because they need a little bit more of that long speed right now in the running back room. And I'm just trying, again, I would not blow too much fab. We're talking like 3%, 2%. You probably don't have to put a bid on Isaac Guerendo if you want to go pick him up. But this is just kind of a stash. The stash, in my opinion.
That's a freebie. I think the point you make around just like the speed is the big difference here. I think like Jordan Mason's an absolute grinder, gets tough yards, breaks tackles, whereas Isaac Guerendo could give you those 80-yard touches that like CMC was giving us. Whereas like Jordan Mason's not breaking 80-yard runs. I don't think that's in his bag.
He's not. Like he had a run yesterday where CMC houses it. They're multiple, right? Where did you see that at the end of the game?
Sideline,
yeah.
Yeah.
Like a faster running back just houses it. But he has amazing short area quickness. That's why he's able to break tackles. He has the most runs over 10 plus yards of any back in the NFL this year. So like we're not dunking on Jordan Mason at all, but he does not have a long speed.
It'd be nice to mix him in. So no, I think that's a good call out. I was hesitant to put him in, but like it just feels like CMC is like nowhere close to being back. And like the Niners, it's not like total panic mode, but like you got to try something a little different on offense, see if Guerendo gives you a bit of a spark on, some bigger plays. So no, I think that's a great call out, Shaun.
Yeah, they need to start scoring in the red zone. So I think they might try different things. Ricky Pearsall might come back too. So that'll be fun to see how
that'll be
that
awesome.
happens.
I'm excited to see that.
All right, we're moving here on to wide receivers. Oh, and I don't think we threw out fab bids for Ty Chandler and Jalen Wright. 3 to 5. I'd put maybe 10% at Chandler. I mean, I could go up to 10% with either of those guys. But Guerendo, like, 3%. I would not overspend on Guerendo.
Yeah, you could probably get him for free. Toss $1, toss 1%.
All right, Josh Downs, wide receiver here for the Colts. What are your thoughts on Josh Downs, Aidan?
Yeah, this should be the last week that he's available. On
Better
waivers, we're showing 54 here. Fantasy Pros consensus says across all leagues, he's still only about 38% owned. Josh Downs needs to be on rosters. The dude has been the clear-cut favorite since he returned, and really looked like himself the last 2 weeks. So this last week, 9 of 12 targets, 69 yards, really impressive. Pittman was the next closest with 8 targets, so pretty clear control in terms of target share. First 3 targets too. Commanded a third of those. Since he returned, though, the last 2 weeks, I'm kind of discounting Chicago as, he was playing but wasn't back to a more full role. He leads the team in targets, yards, and catches. So kind of feels like the guy you want to own there. I know Alec Pierce is still your deep ball guy. Michael Pittman has actually been kind of resurrected with Joe Flacco as well. Sadly, the entire passing offense actually looks a lot better with Joe Flacco. So something to monitor in terms of his availability. We kind of figure he's going to be back this week. Kind of tough matchup against Tennessee. But, man, like for how much Josh Downs is on the field compared to Michael Pittman and Alec Pierce, like he's outplaying both of them. So Josh Downs should absolutely be added. Like this is a guy with buys and injuries right now that like you could be putting in your flex or wide receiver too in a pinch.
Oh yeah. And I think there's this conception too, and I think it's fair that you can only play Josh Downs if, A-Rich isn't playing and it's Flacco. I think you can run Downs out there. No. He's playing that well, dude. Like
because the targets were there with A-Rich too.
They were.
They just didn't hit home.
I mean, his catchable target percentage even in week 3 was 80%. Like he had a lower catchable target rate in week 5 than he did in week 3. So like I honestly think Josh Downs is borderline the alpha in this offense. Again, like Michael Pittman's had back-to-back strong weeks where I think he is more dependent on who the quarterback is, but the man has cleared 27% of the targets in 3 straight games. His targets per route runs at 35% through 3 games. Like these are all alpha numbers, guys. Josh Downs is like league winner. Like he's putting up league winning numbers right now. And I think people are still sleeping on him because they think he's a tiny slot guy. They just think he's a tiny slot guy, but Josh Downs is a baller, man. And he's still working his way back up from the high ankle sprain that he suffered in training camp. So
he's only going to get better. He's only going to get better as this year goes on.
Yeah, look at those usage numbers. It's insane for Downs.
How aggressive would you get with Downs here? This is probably our most targeted,
pretty aggressive,
like wide receiver here. Yeah, I've got up to about 25%. Maybe a little aggressive, but kind of where do you see him?
I mean, the A-Rich factor and the Flacco fact, like there's a little bit of a pause for concern there, even though I did express optimism you can play. I do think his ceiling is probably higher with a more accurate quarterback. I think that's fair to say, but I definitely think you can play him regardless. I see you have it 25% of fab. Dude, I'd even jack that up to like 35% if you want to get aggressive and get your guy, because I do think people are sitting. If you still have fab at this point, I do think people are willing just to spend it to go get like a high-end guy on the wire, and I probably think he's the highest-end guy on the wire right now outside of Bigsby.
Yep. All right. Who else we got?
Another guy going on a bye here, and I don't know what his role is going to look like once the previously mentioned Cooper Kupp is back in the fold. But Jordan Whittington, the 24-year-old 6th-round rookie out of Texas, has shown a lot of promise in back-to-back weeks, clearing 12.2 fantasy points. Saw 8 targets in week 4 against a very good Bears secondary. Saw 10 targets against Green Bay, against a beatable Green Bay secondary. Kind of a weird game. A lot of these teams are just sitting on it, trying to run the ball, not really throw it too much. But Jordan Whittington has a very clear-cut role as... I mean, is he running the Cooper Kupp role? It kind of feels like it. I don't know if it's 1-to-1, but I mean, he definitely seems like he's going to stick in 3 wide receiver sets when Kupp comes back.
I agree.
And it can be Whittington, Kupp, and DeMarcus Robinson. That's probably the best 3 that they have right now. And considering that Matthew Stafford has just made every single receiver he's ever played with fantasy relevant, you probably want to go pick up Jordan Whittington. Yeah, I mean, really good usage. Dwayne McFarland has this utilization score that we look at clearing 7.2 in back-to-back weeks, 30% of the targets in week 4, 22% in week 5. I don't think anyone's going to get super excited about picking up Whittington because of the return of Kupp, and I don't think people are going to get super excited picking him up off of a bye, but I definitely think he's worth stashing at this point. His role could grow. We like to see rookies who command target share. Any thoughts on Whittington?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. It feels like he is going to be the pretty firm wide receiver 3 once both of those guys come back. It's not Puka, but it's funny how 2 years in a row we've gotten like preseason buzz around like one of the Rams wide receiver like rookies, and they both end up being pretty solid. Like Whittington passes the eye test for sure. He looks good out there.
Another guy, and we already covered running backs, but if someone dropped Blake Corum, it's worth an ad. Looks like they have ended the Ronnie Rivers experiment, and they're now actually playing their talented third-round running back in Corum. Aiden and I go back and forth kind of jokingly about Kyren and Corum, but I definitely do think if you have an open spot, you should probably go pick up Corum. And if you have Kyren and the guy dropped Corum, I would definitely go do that. I would definitely go do that.
The Rams running back position is like one of the most valuable like roles in fantasy football. So God forbid anything happens to Kyren, it's Blake Corum's, running back 1, running back 2, like weekly type play.
So we're going to talk about Jalen Tolbert for the 4th time this year. Feels like this is something we do every week.
He's back.
I mean, that's the best game of his young career. I feel like I say this every week. Like, this is the best game of his career. But he's a full-time player who's now getting real big boy target shares. And we probably should have been on this with Cooks out. Yeah. But
we had this down before SNF too. So the price has gone up. And it's kind of to your point. It was just looking at like Brandon Cooks is on the IR. For those of you who missed it, with a knee injury. So it's, Jalen Tolbert is very clearly the wide receiver 2 in this offense, call it the second or third pass catcher with Jake Ferg. But yeah, awesome game. He was the best wide receiver on that field last night on either side of the field. 7 out of his 10 targets, 87 yards, had the game winner after like smashing his nuts or something.
Smashed his nuts. Game winner.
Yeah, we love that. So this is a guy that I'm probably around 10, 20%. The Cowboys are going to keep throwing it. The run game, kind of sucks for lack of better words. So the number 2 wide receiver in that passing attack, I like that. As CD is going to continue to be shadowed. He'll hit home here and there because he's CD Lamb, but number 2, watching that offense, that's a nice role still.
And this isn't fake production. He had a real legit first read target share, which is always something we want to look at. And
yeah,
I think he's at like 25% first read target share or higher in week 5, and those are usually good indications of future performance.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the wide receiver 29 right now. It's a high volume passing offense. I feel like picking up Jalen Tolbert is kind of a no brainer here. Yep. This one here is, I don't know, man. We've been doing this podcast now for 3 years, and I think I've talked about Darius Slayton on the waivers 5 or 6 weeks every year.
He keeps coming up.
What a random career. This guy's now been in the league since 2019, and he's just randomly had a pretty good career. When it's all for the Giants, and every single year they always threaten to cut him. But here he is, putting up 22 fantasy points in 26 fantasy points, in an ultra impressive win. This one kind of feels contingent with Malik Neighbors playing or not.
Yeah, 1,000%.
I mean, if Neighbors has a really bad concussion and for some reason he continues to miss time, Darius Slayton's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, he usually, look at his route numbers. He still is on the field for every single snap. But the big difference in this one is he saw a 28%, a 28% targets per route run and a 35% target share in week 5. We weren't getting that with Malik Neighbors here, but this guy's on the field, and Daniel Jones is actually looking a lot better. I know a lot of people like to shit on Danny Dimes because he's really fun to shit on, and
he's having a good year.
He's playing well. He's definitely playing. He's doing exactly what they're asking him to do. So, man, I don't know. I wouldn't get too aggressive with someone like Darius Slayton, like with Jalen Tolbert, 10 to 20% of your fab. Jordan Whittington, 5 to 10% of your fab. Darius Slayton, 3 to 5?
Yeah, I wouldn't do more than 5. I think the best thing going for him is he's the only receiver with any type of size in that wide receiver room. So yeah, he's playing 80% plus of snaps, but once Neighbors back, obviously, a lot of those targets are going to shift back to him. So don't get too aggressive. Keep an eye on the Neighbors injury, and spend very minimally here.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too aggressive, but it's just something to keep in mind. Malik Neighbors out, Darius Slayton good, right? Sometimes fantasy, keep it simple.
It's easy.
Take these notes down. Another guy who continues to have a pretty strong sophomore season is Michael Wilson, the wide receiver here for the Arizona Cardinals. He's the wide receiver 55 through 5 weeks. It's kind of been a little underwhelming, but he continues to be a full-time player. This passing offense is starting to come alive a little bit. Tell us why you're in on Michael Wilson this week and moving forward.
Yep. I think it's just clear. We've gone back and forth. Like, do I want Michael Wilson? Do I want Greg Dortch? And I want Michael Wilson. I'm firmly in at this point. It's Michael Wilson. He was their leading receiver this past week, catching 5 of his 6 targets for 78 yards. Just looking like now we've got a good enough sample to determine like how has it looked so far over 5 weeks. He's 3rd in targets, 2nd in yards, 2nd in receptions, and 3rd in both first read percentage. And 3rd in first read percentage. So, kind of icing Dortch in terms of like that 3rd pass catcher in that offense. I think on a weekly basis, just given the ADOT, there's a lot more upside here. I think Dortch is going to give you kind of those like fraudulent 5 to 10 points, whereas, Michael Wilson could catch some deep balls and actually get some red zone targets. So, again, this isn't someone I'm overly excited about in terms of like fab bids here. You've got a Green Bay secondary that, is fine. I wouldn't say that defense is, strong by any means. They're probably somewhere in the middle of the pack. So pretty good matchup here. Arizona passing offense continues to be pretty decent. So, call it 5 to 10 fab. Maybe a spot start if you need it. I wouldn't be getting out of bed for Michael Wilson, but, he's been solid. What do you think?
Yeah, I will say this about Michael Wilson is he's putting up he's averaging, I think, 9.3 fantasy points per game right now, but his usage indicates that he should be scoring more. I mean, he's seen a better than 22% targets per route run in 3 straight weeks. He's seen a better than 22% target share in 3 straight weeks. I think more of this is a sign to come with Wilson. And I do think it was shocking how much better their passing offense looked with Trey McBride back. I know it sounds kind of Captain Obvious, but it was night and day different with McBride back.
Like the middle of the field and that like medium kind of like level of the passing tree is there with him. Like he opens up so much for that offense.
Yeah, and they get to throw all the underneath stuff, and defenses start to sell out to stop the underneath stuff, which then opens up the middle of the field and down the field for someone like Michael Wilson. So I think that entire passing offense is a buy right now, if I were being transparent, all things considered. So we're gonna do a BOGO here.
Let's go.
And I don't think it has really anything to do with these guys' play. I guess you can make a argument that Pop Douglas is worth a speculative ad at this point as kind of a stash, considering he's cleared 11.9 fantasy points or more in 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Jaylen Polk for sure he's the wide receiver 85 here. So they're like neither of these guys is really lighting it up, and that's evidenced by their rostership. Pop Douglas has rostered in 15% of the leagues, Jaylen Polk in 18%. But guys, Drake May is coming, and I definitely
potentially this week, which is I wouldn't do it if I'm them, but yeah, soon.
And we were talking about this before we jumped on. I just don't think they have a choice, man. I think the players are just over it. Like
it looks terrible. It looks terrible.
Brissett is immobile, inaccurate. Seems like a really cool dude, good leader. But they're just kind of feeding this man to the wolves. And you're basically saying, hey, Brissett, go out there and take hits because we don't want our rookie who's better than you to take hits. Why would the receivers like go out there and run full like routes at full speed, right? Like, it just doesn't create like a great vibe, in my opinion.
Best 22, it's like why are you in the locker room getting fired up for that?
This isn't basketball where you're like, like you go sit for a couple weeks, like we're trying to lose. This is football, man. Like 52 guys, the minimum salary is brutal. Your careers are short. Like they're out there putting their body on the line. And I know this has nothing to do with the waiver wire here, but this is just kind of us talking ball. But I feel like you kind of just have to play your best players. And at this point, I think Drake May is better than Jacoby Brissett. I think he's been better than Jacoby Brissett. So it'd be very interesting to run out May in this week against the Texans instead of playing him at home against the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's a much better matchup.
But here we go. And if Drake May plays, expect interceptions, expect fumbles, expect sacks, but they're going to play at a faster pace. He's going to push the ball downfield. I think you saw Pop Douglas, if you look at his week 3 against the Jets when Drake May came in, he scored 14.8 fantasy points. A lot of that came on the last drive. And the reason why we're highlighting both of these guys, they're both full-time players here. Jaylen Polk, 97% of the routes. Fantasy points has an ass metric, average separation. Jaylen Polk's getting separation with some of the best receivers in the league. I think if he has competent QB play, this man's going to go out here and be a difference maker. We all liked him coming out of school too. So I think both these guys are good ads. Do you have any opinions on these guys before we get to quarterbacks and tight ends?
Yeah, I think we know what Pop Douglas is, like huge PPR guy. I'm more excited about Polk. If you look at his usage jumps over the last 2 weeks, Polk played 100% of the snaps last week. He played just shy of 80, I think, the week prior. So I think this is more of like, a slate breaker, for lack of better words, in fantasy, where like he could go for some massive games. Whereas I think like I put Pop Douglas in the Wan'Dale Robinsons, the Greg Dortches, like the Gino, like low A dot, give me 5 catches and 12 points. Whereas I really get excited about Jaylen Polk and his skill set.
Yeah, I think Demario Douglas, Pop Douglas, is in the middle between Josh Downs and Wan'Dale. I do love Scamdale. Scam's my man, but
yeah, that's fair.
Douglas is pretty legit. He's a slot player, in my opinion. They're all what I thought Rondale Moore would be, but I digress.
I wouldn't spend much on these guys.
No.
I'd probably prefer Pop, just especially in PPR formats. Maybe 5 to 10, which probably even a little much. Polk, I probably wouldn't go higher than 5 at this point. What do you think there?
Yeah, these are the definitions of getting out in front of it. I think if Jaylen Polk, with his first game with Drake May, if he scores 15 plus fantasy points, he's going to be the most added receiver the next week. Yeah. So you just have to squint and close your eyes and imagine it. I definitely think you don't have to put a bid in either, because I don't know if they're going to announce Drake May until later in the week.
Probably not. And even if they are, I don't think most of your league mates will be like, oh, Drake May's in, time to go get Jaylen Polk. I'm just assuming it's probably not how most of the leagues work.
All right, we're going to move on to quarterbacks here before we get out of here. This is your time, Aiden. Why should the folks be picking up Caleb Williams, even though he's rostered in 60% of leagues?
Yeah, this is it. So
this is just Aiden's opportunity to talk about Caleb.
No, so we have 2 guys over 50 on the show. But if you drop Caleb Williams, like, you got to go pick him back up. The growth he's shown over the last 3 weeks has been like pretty night and day. I think there was a gross amount of panic after 2 weeks, but 300 plus and 2 touchdowns and 2 of his last 3, was just QB6 this last week. Looks very comfortable, even starting to run a little bit more. I think a big part of him was just figuring out, like, what can I get away with at the NFL level? Like, guys that like to play as like free and loose as him. It takes a couple weeks, probably even like years, to like really understand it, to figure out, what can I get away with? But the main thing to get excited about is the schedule. The cupcake schedule here with Caleb is crazy. If you just scroll down here, they're going to London to get Jacksonville, who just got absolutely destroyed by Joe Flacco this last week. Then they're on bye before they have the Commanders, Cardinals, and Patriots. So it's probably going to continue to get better before we get into a bit of a trickier part of his season. So if he's, for whatever reason, still on your waiver wire, I'd go ahead and pick him up.
Got to pick up Caleb. We were all super high on him.
That whole offense is kind of trending up, minus Keenan Allen. I don't know what Keenan Allen's role is, but I like everything else there right now.
Yeah, I'm worried about pass catchers, and specifically about supporting 2 of them. But DJ is the alpha, and
which we know
that is everything we needed to see. We wanted to see a classic revenge game. DJ Moore show out and Caleb get him the rock. And that's exactly what happened. That's a definitely check the box game for a really strong rookie season for Caleb Williams, which will have ups and downs, but you want to see your quarterback dunk on bad defenses as rookies. And that's exactly what he did. So you love to see that. A guy who is not a rookie, who's been around forever, is Captain Kirk. And man, if you have
Welcome
Patrick
back.
Mahomes or Sam Darnold or Matthew Stafford. I know not everyone's starting these guys. Kirk is such a smash as a streaming pick next week against Carolina. The pass rate is just way up in this offense right now. You're seeing 29 pass attempts in 4 straight games, back-to-back games with over 35 pass attempts. This team does not play in normal games. They play in just insane one-score games all day, every day, and they're just throwing the shit out of the ball. They got pass catchers galore too, and the pass offense looks good. So you got Kirk Cousins up against Carolina. Got to feel really good about that, man. That is about as good of a streaming opportunity as you're going to get on the waiver wire. I'm a big fan of Captain Kirk this week. Any thoughts on Kirk? Maybe rest of the season versus just say week 5 stream.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it. They just pass at a disgusting amount. They're top 5 on the season in terms of pass rate. If you look at the last 3 weeks, they're second. So I think he's finally starting to get some chemistry with those pass catchers too. Drake London looked awesome. Darnell Mooney has been phenomenal as wide receiver too, and even Kyle Pitts showed signs of life. So yeah, Kirk is an awesome stream, not only this week, but I think going forward.
Man, this is warming my heart to see Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes himself, popping up in the waiver wire. 3 usable weeks, Aidan. Like, I've got him in Superflex and Dynasty. It's never pretty, but you look up and you get 3 usable weeks for Mr. Daniel Jones. What are your thoughts on Danny Dimes? How should managers approach him? Is this a rest of season play? I mean, he's got a cake matchup against Cincinnati. Like, talk about another
Yeah,
great streamer in week
this is a
6.
guy that needs to be rostered. I don't know if you're 100% starting him every week, but yeah, it's like you said, he's been a top 3 QB, or not top 3, a top 11 QB 3 times so far this season. Week 1 was dark and week 4 was not great, but he looks fine. Like, he's doing what they ask of him. He's not turning the ball over much. And, with Malik Neighbors, Scamdell, like, it's not the best offensive infrastructure, but they're making it work. Being tied to Neighbors is awesome. So, yeah, pretty good matchup this week if you've got some of your guys on bye, etc. Along with some other pretty cush matchups too, actually. I forgot. Cincy, then you got Philly. Steelers are a tough one. Then they've got the Commanders and the Panthers. So I'd say 4 out of 5 of those like you could talk yourself into starting Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I had to pick between Cousins and Jones, Cousins feels safer, but
Kirk, it's got to be
Cincinnati's
Kirk.
been terrible. Cincinnati's
I
been
know.
terrible.
Kirk against the Panthers though, like they continue like do the injuries on the defensive front for Carolina are heinous. I
Clowney
think
got hurt. The
Kirk
tank
is
is
going to
on.
walk into it like at least 300 yards. It's going to be awesome.
But
Fireball your pass catchers.
but that could be the Bijan Robinson get right game too.
Oh, that'd
10-day
be
mini bye. Bijan get right game against Carolina. Anyone can run it on Carolina. I could close my eyes and see that. So we'll see.
Could be
We'll see what
both.
goes, but both
Could be
are
both.
good options. Both are
Yeah.
good options. Last guy before we get out of here. Only tight end showing up on the list. We gave you Tucker Kraft last week, folks. I've been giving you Tucker Kraft for 6 months, but
Kraft singles every
and
week.
how many redrafts teams do I have him on? Kicking myself. I chose Wicks over Kraft in multiple leagues last week, so I digress. Okay, Tyler Conklin is our remaining tight end, only tight end here showing up on the list this week. He's tight end 14 through 5 weeks. I mean, I don't know, dude. He's on the field a ton.
They don't
He
have
gets
pass
targets.
catchers outside of Garrett Wilson. Yeah, it's like even Lazard, it's just like kind of a drop machine. Mike Williams is nowhere near really like contributing like we expect to see. Yeah, like he's the number 3 pass catcher if you take out the running backs here in that offense right now.
He's had weeks 1 and week 2 were pretty bad, but he's cleared 18% targets per route run. I mean, I guess 17, but he's had pretty good targets per route run numbers for 3 weeks in a row, and then pretty good target share for a tight end 3 weeks in a row. They get him on a lot of the underneath stuff.
It works, man.
It could,
6+ targets the last couple of weeks at the tight end for how bad it's been at the tight end position. I'm taking 11.5 and I'm sprinting out the door.
Yeah, I'm trying to see, like, if you look at all tight ends here, if you look at season stats and you look at targets per route run, I mean, Connor Haywood, that's gross. Let me see here if I actually toggle.
Yeah, a lot of these guys haven't played a ton.
Routes. Let's see. Let's give him 50 routes and see where we're at here. Oh, that is not proving my point here.
24.
My target, let me see here. I mean, he's 16. He's like league average.
Yeah.
Kate Otten's somebody you can go pick up too, by the way. Don't think it's that bad of a pickup. I mean, it's not exciting at all, but they pass the shit out of the ball, so it's probably worth a look.
Your guy Colby too. While we're on the way out, we almost had Colby on it, but they're also going into buy. It's hard to sell you on like a middle of the pack tight end going into buy, but if you've got roster spots, the usage has been really impressive, and they're dying for a pass catcher right now.
Gosh, look at George. I should have drafted more George. He's been awesome. Kittle.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's it. Or should we talk about Charlie Kolar, the third tight? No, on the Ravens. No, I think we'll save.
They need to stop.
We'll save our 3 tight end Ravens offense takes for another day. Aidan, thank you always for stopping by to talk waivers. We will see you later in the week with Keegan to talk through rankings for running backs and receivers. Anything to say to the listener before we jump?
Nope. Good luck with your waivers this week. I hope you guys win all your bids.
Yes, sir. All right, everybody. Till next time.